Good morning, happy Wednesday, and welcome to Ask Wildman. My name is Miles Bassett. This is Ask Wildman, an open Q&A produced by Wildman Web Solutions here in Lawrence, Kansas. We are here every Wednesday to answer your questions. We're a digital marketing company, so ask us about technology, business, marketing, advertising. You can ask us about other things, and we'll do our best, but no guarantees there. Anyway, my team and I are on here live streaming to our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and now our Twitch account as well to answer any and all questions posed to us and hopefully provide some good resources. So please, if you have any questions, if you like what we're talking about, you want us to take a deeper dive into something, or you have a personal experience with what we are talking about, please throw all of that in the comments below. We'll address any questions that come up as they come up. Or if you're catching this later and you're not watching us live, you can still be part of the conversation by emailing us at askwildman@wildmanweb.com. I do have that address scrolling below me here in that crawler. So grab that, email us, and we'll either get back to you in email or we'll use that question as the subject matter for next week's show. We do have a couple of fun updates for today, a couple of news stories for today, a couple of things coming in the inbox there, but we will also be hitting live questions as they come up. So again, please comment below, and we'll shameless self-promotion here. If you like what we're doing, if you think that we're providing good information, this is a good resource, please like, share, engage with this video somehow. That helps tell the algorithms and the social media overlords that we're producing something good that they should be showing to other people. The more people that see this, more people can engage with it, and the more value we can provide, the more questions we can answer. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my partner here to talk about the matters of the day and answer your questions. Mike. Hey, there we go. Mike Hanna, welcome.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, Miles. My
I like
goodness.
the hat.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good hat.
You too can get one of these awesome Wildman Web Solutions hat right at our website, wildmanweb.com. There you go. First plug of the day out of the way. Good to be here. How in the heck are you doing on this fine morning, Miles?
I'm doing good. It's a beautiful day. I got my coffee. It's already been a super productive day, and now I get to sit here and answer some questions with you. So
yeah, it was a gorgeous morning. I got up early and went outside. Couldn't believe it was middle of August. Felt like fall a little bit out there already, almost.
Yeah. My yard's still dead, so.
Oh, well. You also, when you mentioned our social media tech overlords too, you made me think of one other offbeat news segment that maybe we could get to at the end, especially if Mr. Fry joins us. I know he will appreciate it. But Jack Dorsey made some news earlier this week. So, but yeah, good to be here with you.
All right. So like I said, this is an open Q&A, live streaming right now to our social platforms. So make sure to follow us at Wildman Web. That is our handle across all social platforms. So wherever you like to be, we probably got an account there. Follow us there. We'll be providing updates and providing all sorts of valuable content like this, primarily focused at small business owners, technology, marketing, advertising, that kind of thing. But occasionally we'll branch out and have a little bit of fun. So make sure to follow us at Wildman Web. And yeah, if you're joining us now, I see a couple of people popping in here across platforms. Please throw your questions in the comments below. Or again, if you just have some thoughts about this conversation can be a two-way street here rather than a lecture. So just comment below. And then if you are watching this later, make sure to email us. That inbox is where we get a lot of the content for the show. So please email us at askwildman@wildmanweb.com and we'll get your questions there. To start off the show today, and while we're waiting for some questions to come in here, maybe this will generate some questions and comments here. We do have a couple of breaking news stories that we kind of wanted to get into, some announcements from big companies and how they're using digital marketing, how they're using technology. There was one that I saw come up here, which was very relevant to something we had talked about for the last couple of weeks here. So I kind of wanted to re-hit that and bring up some of those comments here. Mike, I think I sent you the link to this story just beforehand, but the subject here is Wingstop.
Oh, yeah.
Wing place, yeah. So the headline here we have, marketing dive, Wingstop shakes up marketing structure as it eyes 100% digital transactions. The highlight of this here is that they have completely shifted their leadership structure. They've completely shifted their goals and their marketing and how they're running the company to mirror something more akin to a tech company than a traditional restaurant chain, which is, I mean, I think it's perfectly in line with what we've been predicted here on this show for the last couple of months, if not the last couple of years. You know, we tell small businesses to try to think of themselves as a media company first, but a lot of these bigger companies are starting to look at themselves not only as a media company, but as a tech company. They're standing up their own servers. They've got big, complicated online applications instead of websites that are just, you know, marketing pieces. They're all putting out mobile apps and managing those all in-house, getting everything custom built, and starting to basically vertically assemble a tech stack within their company so that they can exist in this new digital world and still completely control all of it internally. I think one of the problems that they started seeing early on is that they had to leverage third-party companies. They had all of these external resources that they had to rely on in order to keep a lot of this technology infrastructure up and going. So some of the bigger companies that had the power and the capital to do so started just building all that stuff internally. So a lot of these big companies, things like companies like Wingstop here, are starting to mirror something more akin to tech companies than restaurants or, you know, people elsewhere in the hospitality market or in completely other industries as well. They're all following this trend here. So the realignment here at Wingstop comes as digital sales now account for nearly 65% of Wingstop's overall mix. The restaurant category is broadly investing more in digital and mobile capabilities as consumer habits change quickly due to the coronavirus pandemic. I want to put a little bit of a correction there on the last line, and I'll let you jump in here, Mike. You know, we've talked about this a couple of times, that this pandemic and the last kind of year or two, and all the, let's say, oddities that have popped up here haven't necessarily invented new things. They've really just accelerated trends that were already happening. So maybe we're 5 years ahead of where we would have been otherwise with things like online ordering and contactless technologies and stuff like that. But, you know, we were kind of already pointing in this direction anyway. So I don't want people to too closely tie some of this movement, some of this progress to just pandemic times, meaning that it's all going to go away as soon as we move out of this. But rather, this is here to stay. A lot of these changes are making things really nice, really convenient, really fast, and we were moving here anyway. So I want to decouple those two concepts here as we move forward and talk a little bit more about how these companies are restructuring themselves and looking more and more like technology companies than anything else.
Oh, that's a great, several great points there, Miles. But yeah, I'm glad you added on that addendum there at the end, because I think before we jump into this specific example of Wingstop, we should maybe just take a step back and and analyze this from a larger perspective, because I mean, and you can attest to this better than anybody, the technology is already there. The infrastructure, the ideas, the things that have been built. I mean, VR, AR, we could have bionic robots running around doing everything right now. The technology is there. Why don't we have all that? Why don't we have flying cars and all that, right? Because the consumer behavior hasn't caught up to where the technology is. It's not that, we have to create all these new things and then we'll go out and use them. No, they're already built. That's done. We have 40 years of futurism already built out and scaled out. It's just, it's not, nobody walks around all day long with a VR headset on it right now. Right.
Yeah. The market determines a lot of how we actually progress through here and how we actually fulfill on.
Right. So that's really all that happened in the pandemic, to your point.
What?
I don't know what that was.
The technology overlords. They've caught you. They're coming for you now.
Was that the thought police? I think that was the thought police. Man, that got really Orwellian there for a minute. Holy. Okay. Anywho.
You were saying, yeah, consumer habits changed.
Yeah. Yeah. So consumer habits changed, not the technology changed, to your point. And that's just going to keep happening more and more and more and more and more. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. We don't need to get into the Terminator discussion. I know we've already hit that at one point on the show, but no, let's jump into this Wingstop example specifically. Yeah, 65% already there in terms of digital sales and online ordering, of course, and mobile ordering. This makes sense from a lot of angles. If they don't have to deal with cash as much, it's going to be faster. We always talk about how speed wins and consumers want more speed and da. Well, this is essentially a way to do that. But it's also, I think, reading the room, so to speak, and understanding if you already have 65% of people that have adapted this thing, it's probably what the consumer wants. They probably think that it's easier, it's better for them, et cetera, et cetera. So let's remove all the hoops and make it as easy as possible for them to get what they want. Wingstop, to their credit, has been making some interesting moves lately, sort of bobbing and weaving with the times here. They had, I think this is even mentioned here at the end of the article. Let me pull this up real quick. Thigh Stop. We talked about that a couple weeks on the show, where they launched a completely different virtual brand because there's a chicken shortage right now, and it's hard to get wings. It's hard to get chicken breast. There's plenty of thighs. There's a surplus of thighs out there. So what are they doing? They're trying to retrain the American consumer a little bit that, hey, thighs are cool, because white meat has become the cool thing with all the chicken tender craze and everything that has happened. They're also dabbling into ghost kitchens a little bit, and really eyeing that space as well. But let's talk about how the specific example is relatable to even the smallest of businesses. Because what they did that you highlighted there at the beginning is they've built out their own native first-party platform. And that is so important. And I want to say it again. They built out their own native first-party platform. In terms of
every word in that phrase is key
critical,
in the infrastructure development here. Yeah.
Right. And so what that allowed, and we could throw in mobile with that too, because that's another really key word here. And we did a little deep dive on m-commerce and a few weeks ago as well. And the reason that is so important, that any small business can out there do, is because what are we seeing right now with the small business, especially in the restaurant space that you alluded to before? They're having to rely on third parties. And it's frankly a mess, right? They're relying on third-party delivery, which is unreliable. They're relying on third-party online ordering, which is not seamless, and usually user-friendly, and compatible with some of the other things they may have, like their website and their mobile app. And also, really, really critical point here, they aren't getting that first-party data. They aren't getting that. They're letting somebody else get rich off their customers. And that's got to stop. And once they take control of those things and they bring it in-house, which now is easier than ever to do and affordable. It's not like this is only for the big boys and girls out there. The smallest of businesses can do this now. They are going to start to reap the rewards of really being able to engage with their customers even after the sale, which is really critical part that they're missing right now. Is that most people, when they farm it out to a third-party online ordering system, they don't have it tied into their POS system, and so they're not being able to get those people into their text messaging platform, into their email list. Heck, just getting a customer audience on Facebook where you can, remarket to those people with all kinds of things is a huge, huge missed opportunity. That there's no reason that small business can't do it. They just they don't know about it, or they haven't thought it through enough to take the action to do it. But it's really not hard, and something that we help people do all the time. And so those are some critical things here that I think we need to pull out of here. Will things become 100% cashless? I don't think so, but I think that's kind of besides the point. I mean, that was kind of a nice thing, I guess, for them to hope for in their press release. But this is not to say that you're going to completely replace cash, but it's becoming less and less and less. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories. Again, we have the thought police, slap us down. But there have been and there are bills on both sides of this that have gone through or in Congress. One to make it easier for everything to be cashless, and other ones to make sure that people can't go all cashless. So we'll definitely see where that ends up. And like I said, the consumer is certainly going the cashless direction right now.
I think that's the big one here, is that the market determines where we go, and there's a certain element of it's just. Yeah, the market always wins here, and it's just convenient in a lot of places to have this contactless, cashless, mobile ordering feature. And we've talked about having online payment gateways for everything from restaurants to, the plumbers and electricians. No matter what you do, if you can remove some hurdles between you and the person who's wanting to give you money, then why not do it? It's just a convenience factor thing. I also don't think that we're going to get 100% there. I think that in-person transactions aren't going anywhere anytime soon anyway. But yeah, we're definitely leaning further and further in this direction, and the pandemic caused us to lean pretty hard, pretty quick. So maybe we jumped ahead a couple of years, but that's definitely the trend line we've been seeing here.
Definitely.
And one other element that I think you left out when we were talking about leveraging third-party services, is not only is it unreliable and maybe doesn't seamlessly connect to your stuff, but it's also not dedicated to you.
Right.
For every Eat Street or Grubhub or whatever kind of external service that you're using, there's 50 other people within your space that are using the same thing. And so any money or time or effort that you put into promoting yourself on those platforms, you are pretty close, or maybe even just as much, promoting your next door competition.
I can't believe I left that point out, Miles. Such an important point. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, let's just unpack that for a minute, and let's take the walk, as we like to do sometimes, and walk through, what is a customer journey, right? So I spend all this time to get the customer to my website or my mobile app or whatever. They're literally ready to hit the purchase now button, and I may send them to a place, like you said, where they could just as easily find another place to eat and hop over there. My God, is that a big hole in my funnel and my customer journey potentially. So really, really important point there. Why would you ever want to give them another option to do something
so hard
else?
To get new customers in a lot of places. I mean, think about that. We set up these marketing funnels for people all the time. We could set up an amazing ad campaign across different social media platforms and search and whatever, and get a bunch of new people, a bunch of new eyeballs on your business. And then they click that buy button, and then they're presented with a list of your competition, and their favorite in the space that they've been going to forever. Do you think they're going to try that new restaurant or that new business, or do you think they're going to go back to their favorite here?
And then,
I mean, you just spent all of that time and money getting nothing here, and you definitely didn't get a new customer.
And then even if you did get the sale, what's going to happen is that third-party company that you leverage the sale through is going to continue to market back to that customer more aggressively than you likely. And they're not just going to send them you again. They're going to send them everything in their portfolio that they think that customer might be interested in.
Exactly.
So again, you're allowing somebody else to get rich off your customers. Please stop. I don't know how to sum it up any more than that, Miles. But really, really important article here today. I'm glad you brought that up. And
I'll go ahead and drop the link to this article in the comments here for anyone who wants to look at it. But I think the sort of the meta analysis here and looking at the market in general is much more important than just the specifics of what Wingstop is doing right now. I think they're a good example as someone that is in kind of a difficult industry right now. You said that there's a chicken shortage. It's impacting a lot of restaurants, and they're having to pivot all over the place, and they're really making a lot of smart moves here, admittedly. So I think this might be a good one for some people to look at. But again, it's those higher level patterns that we've been seeing, that we've been talking about on this show for months, if not years now, that are very much manifesting in this specific story that make it so interesting.
Definitely. Yeah, and let's go ahead and give a shameless plug, since we're on the topic of chicken and wings and everything like that. One of our clients made a big announcement this week, and they got a brand new website out to show off that we helped them out with, and a mobile app on the way. But Miles, do you want to make that announcement?
Yeah. So for those of us currently in the Lawrence, Kansas City area, we have a new concept coming to us that is Wing Stand by Jefferson's. So it's a whole new concept that they're doing. It is kind of chicken based, wings, sandwiches, the works there. It's looking really exciting. I've had a really good time putting together some of their marketing material, putting together their new website. And like Mike said, here we do have an app on the way. It's not quite out there yet. Publication is quite the process, but I have a feeling we'll get to that later in the day. But yeah, just look for that opening up, hopefully looking like about this time next month, mid to late September, we'll have the first location opening up and a couple more following. So chicken fans, this is your thing.
Yeah, go and check it out.
Go ahead and
follow
put a link to that in the comments as well.
Yeah, and they got their social media up, so go ahead and follow Wingstand on all your favorite social media platforms, and yeah, go check it out. Big congratulations to the folks over there at Jefferson's, putting out another great restaurant franchise. Really excited about it.
I'm still putting up comments here, so you should come up with some more stalling material.
Oh, okay. Well, should we get into the other big news, or do you want to save that app story here for a bit and have me stall? Well, I tell you what we can get into for a minute, and I don't want to be a fearmonger, but I'm just going to do this to stall. Since we were on the topic of restaurants and contactless ordering and everything like that, the CDC just came out within the last hour talking about booster shots and waning vaccinations. Apparently, which I think we all of us had a hunch that this was going on, especially if you've looked at the data coming out of Israel, that the vaccinations start to lose their effectiveness after a period of time. They think about 8 months. And so we have the Delta variant, of course, going around. We were hoping, 6 weeks ago, that this pandemic was in its waning days and it was going to be behind us by the fall. It looks like the opposite is currently in the news. And so, we need, I'm saying we need to go back and think like we were 18 months ago, of course, but we need to keep thinking forward about how we can navigate this situation as small business owners, keep putting our products and services where the customers can find them and engage with them easy. And again, meet the customer where they are and where they're willing to be, and just making sure that we're listening with 2 ears and speaking with one mouth, and really understanding our customer journey. Because consumer habits could be changing yet again, is basically what I'm getting at. And I'm sure everybody who is a small business owner right now is keenly aware of this. So I'm probably preaching to the choir, but hopefully I've at least stalled enough for Miles to finish whatever the heck he was doing over there. Again, we're all going to hope for the best, and hope this is going to be behind us in a few weeks, but let's prepare for maybe not the best.
Well, I think that it's good to, it's good to think of this as a generally volatile market right now. It's going all over the place, but it could be doing so for any number of reasons. Right now, it's the pandemic. Next year, it's going to be who knows what. And in 10 years, it'll be the lizard people taking over, of course. But, just keeping in mind that, one, the consumer and the market makes the decisions as to how we're actually going to engage with things. So whether you like where something's going or not, whether you agree with something and where we're going or not, you have to watch that market, watch how they're behaving, and be ready to change yourself and your business and your I don't know, your strategy around how they are behaving, because that is the only thing at the end of the day that matters. Is what are the consumers doing? How can we pivot our business to match whatever it is that they're doing? So for right now, that's kind of leaning into online ordering, contactless payments, sort of this whole digital business trend that we've been seeing for the last couple of months. But next year it could be something different, and I think that is one of the advantages. I know I've said this on the show before, and hopefully is the silver lining to some of the craziness that's happening right now. The advantage that a small business has is that we are small and agile. We don't have to wait for the shifting of a multi-million-dollar marketing program. We don't have to wait for the board of whoever's to approve our new direction or anything. Here at Wildman, basically, if Mike and I agree on something, then we're doing that. That could be a complete shift within a couple of hours. I know a lot of the businesses that we work with, they've got one decision maker, maybe they got a small team there. But our strength is that we can shift rapidly. That we can be much more agile than some of the bigger companies out there. So the beginning of that starts with just listening to the market, keeping your ear to the ground and understanding what's going on, keeping a good eye on how your business is working and what people are saying about you. Keep an eye on your reputation, on the reviews that are out there. Utilize social media to engage with your audience so that you get a realistic picture of where they are and how they want to engage with you. And be ready to adjust. I think that's the only real answer here, and the only solid advice that we can give small business owners out there as we're progressing into the unknown.
Yeah, 100%, Miles. And I just thought of one quick story. I won't say who the business is because we only talk positive about businesses on this show. But just talking about online ordering, I had somebody tell me over the weekend they wanted to order a certain type of food. They went to that company's website. They got sent to a third-party app, the third-party website to order it. The website could not fulfill the order. I think it was like they just weren't taking any more orders right at that moment or something. And the person decided to then get a completely same type of food, same exact dish at a completely different place that they could order directly from the website.
Because it's there right next to them.
right. And
why not?
I mean, they could have easily called to the original place, but no, that's just, it didn't even, I don't think it even occurred to them,
even at that point, if they hadn't even linked to that third-party service, then they probably would have been better off. They would have just said, call us for the order, and they would have called and ordered, and it would have been fine. But linking to that third-party service opened up the door to just shopping them out to the guy literally 2 centimeters away on my screen.
Yeah. And that literally happened to me not happened to me, but happened to a friend of mine the other day. And I said, you should tell that place that you ordered from somewhere else because they couldn't order through your website. And hopefully they did, because that's why I say, listen with 2 ears, 1 mouth, because if we don't know that's a problem, we can't fix it. Right. Well, yeah. The first thing is understanding where the holes are in our customer journey and our buying funnel.
And for as crazy and sometimes annoying and sometimes creepy social media can be, it is a really powerful tool for engaging with your audience in a more direct way than we've ever been able to do. Reviews are nice, but oftentimes that's just the people that are pissed off that are leaving reviews, or you're not getting the most honest, the most open and honest feedback that way. But on social media, you have the opportunity to open up an actual dialogue with your customers directly in a number of different avenues across different platforms with different medias. You've got direct messaging. You've got your sort of the post wall, whether you're talking about Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever you're at. You've got people commenting all over the place, liking and sharing. There's just so many different ways to engage with your community there. If you're doing it effectively, then you can get a pretty accurate idea of how your audience and how your customer base is behaving right now, what they're looking for, what they're wanting. And then all you have to do is be that. And ta-da, you've won business.
100%.
Probably a little bit easier said than done, but that's the gist of it. Um, yeah. So I know we've talked on this show before and giving some tips and tricks on how to listen to your audience and how to utilize social media, how to utilize reviews. So go back and check that out, or go to our website. We've got plenty of articles on how to do this, how to post more effectively, how to use social media, how to manage your reviews and your online reputation, everything. We've got a whole blog section there with tons of articles on this kind of stuff. But if you have any questions on that more specifically, like I said at the beginning of this show, throw those questions in the comments below, or email us your questions at askwildman@wildmanweb.com.
So Miles, I got one more quick news story here before we get to
Sure.
the app story, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So this is another thing that I think just popped up here on my radar screen. I thought was interesting, and brings in a couple of elements of some key things that we've been talking about the last few weeks. MLB, the Major League Baseball, taps former Marriott exec as a CMO, which for those of you who don't know is a chief marketing officer, to bolster digital efforts. Major League Baseball has hired Karen Tipone as an executive vice president CMO, filling in a role that's been empty since 2016. That is kind of hard to believe. She previously held roles as with the Walt Disney Company as well as Marriott, and has an extensive background in digital marketing. And part of the effort of bringing her in was because the MLB wants to explore digital marketing, especially areas of interest, including loyalty programs and blockchain. And I think this is really interesting, more of the fact of who it is, Major League Baseball Association, who, Miles, I know you're not a big sports guy, but I'll fill you in. Maybe the audience knows, but
Out be like that.
Sorry, but the MLB has been suffering lately in terms of their marketing, their imaging, their ticket sales. I mean, this was even before COVID-19. It's seen as an old man's game, right? And it's seen as too slow for the younger generation, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think this is a way for them, obviously, to tap into the younger generation, but also, try to, like what we were talking about, try to meet the customer where they are. And, and people are interested in things like blockchain and NFTs and stuff like that, especially among the younger techie folks. And loyalty reward programs, as we've seen, especially if you combine it with something like a mobile app, which the MLB has really been pushing the last 4 or 5 years, but they haven't had a loyalty rewards program as part of it, can really be an awesome way to maybe reinvent yourself is a bit of a strong word, but to evolve yourself, let's say, in the eyes of a younger generation. And they know that, the baby boomers aren't going to buy tickets forever, right? And so they have to adapt or change, adapt or die, basically, or if they're going to make it for the next, 30, 40, 50 years and still be relative. And I think this is also interesting, too, because MLB, in my mind, has always, I don't get why they're not more recognizable, because they wear batting helmets, but you can see the player's face, right? It's like football. They have a helmet on, they have a mask on the whole time, right? But yet NFL players are much more recognizable than Major League Baseball players. I bet if a Kansas City Royal, other than maybe Salvador Perez or a few guys, walked into a Dillon's or wherever, a restaurant you were eating at, most people will have no idea who it is. A member of the Kansas City Chiefs walks in, and I think most people, other than maybe an offensive lineman or something, would recognize that person. Well, why is that? Well, it goes back to the fundamental first step of marketing, attention, right? I think the NFL, and they've done a lot of, I won't say bad things, but they've had a lot of bad press over the years too. But they've maybe done a better marketing job with their players, their stars, and their teams than the MLB has done. But they're both 3-4 hour events. So you can't tell me that the attention span is that much of a difference going to a baseball game than a football game. Actually, a football game usually takes longer to attend or to watch on television. So I just want to throw that out there, Miles. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I thought that was. But I thought
as you pointed out, I'm probably not the
interesting.
best person to comment on this. I find that interesting. I didn't necessarily realize, just that recognizability factor, and I do wonder, why that is, and if that's part of their marketing or lack thereof. You said that their CMO was vacant since 2016,
right. Which is wild.
So. Yeah, maybe they've been slacking there, but it looks like they're moving in the right direction, and in the direction that we're seeing a lot of these business behemoths moving. It really just starting to jump on some of these new trends. Some of them I find really interesting, things that I wouldn't necessarily see or think that some of these large entities would necessarily jump on board with. Things that are a little bit more trendy. These big organizations, they tend to be fairly risk averse, and so they're going to, if they see something that is absolutely working, like Facebook advertising, they're still going to be 5 years behind on it. But then we start seeing things like NFTs and different sort of blockchain technologies that are just barely hitting the marketplace. And even as someone who is versed in technology and who lives in this tech space, I don't even necessarily know where these things are going, or if they're going to be long standing, or if they're just sort of these weird little fads that hit, whether you're talking about NFTs or different cryptocurrencies, or there's a couple of other technologies and specifically marketing technologies surrounding the blockchain environment. But now we're seeing some of these huge companies kind of jumping on some of those bandwagons. So I find that really interesting. I'm not entirely sure where it's going, and I'm definitely not in the prediction making business, especially not after this last year or so. But I do think that small business owners should take some of these movements within huge corporations as we should take some of these cues, because if they are looking at doing some of this stuff, then we should at least be considering moving in that direction. Now, of course, they have a lot more money to throw around. They have a lot more resources to put towards something and really do something effectively. But a small business, like I said, is a little bit more agile. And if we do the right research and we're working with the right people, then we can leverage some of these technologies as well. And potentially be even more effective on a smaller scale than something as gigantic as the MLB.
Yeah. One quick last point here. We'll put a button on this one and move on to the last and one of maybe perhaps the most interesting story of the day. Just in relation to where the MLB is compared to the NFL and the NBA. And this is just with NFTs. But again, maybe we don't need to go into what NFTs are. Hopefully the audience knows what NFTs are. We've done that before. But the NBA already has their own NFT marketplace. So they've already gone to a native first-party platform that they control and within the NFT space. And then the NFL is in considerations of building its own right now. And so the MLB is obviously behind the eight ball here, but they're seeing the writing on the wall and they're trying to catch up as best they can, is basically where the story is. And they've also been slumping behind those two leagues as far as attendance and television goes. So there you have it, folks. Market voice equals market share. Some things never change. Okay, let's get into some big app news. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Miles.
Yeah, well, you actually brought to my attention an article here from Insider that popped up, which I think is a good summary of everything. But basically, you may have not seen this with all of the different bills going around, all the different lawsuits. Everyone decided to be incredibly litigious recently regarding social media and big tech giants. From all sides of the political aisle, everyone is suing everyone, and everyone's trying to legislate everything or regulate everything or nothing or somewhere in between or neither or both. But one of the more interesting one here is surrounding the Open App Markets Act. So for right now, there are very small controlled marketplaces where one must get their mobile applications. And these marketplaces come by default installed on your mobile device. So if you have an Apple device, an iPhone, iPad, whatever, you get Apple's App Store, and that's where you get all of your apps. And if you have a Google device, you have an Android, then you go through Google's Google Play App Market. All apps that are submitted there get reviewed by their internal teams. And then if they pass that review, they get published to the App Store, and then you can download it. This act here is looking to at least start the process, and it's I don't think it really has as much teeth as it says that it does here, but is trying to start the process to open up that market. So there could be an open marketplace of apps. Phones could have different marketplaces on there, and you could download apps from other places other than the approved app stores of your phone provider. So that would open up a ton of possibilities here. Right now, these two companies kind of end up like gatekeepers. Speaking as an app developer here, whenever I build something, I have to build it in accordance with their rules, and exactly their rules are changing all the time. They have tons of different regulations and requirements as to how something is built, from the look and feel of it to how it interacts with native functions on the device to just the architecture of the actual the code that I'm writing within the app has to fit their standards in order for something to get published on their platform. Opening that up to a free market would completely change the landscape of the mobile app development and mobile app production marketplace. Mm-hmm. Like, it would just be a complete game changer. From the beginning of smartphones, this is how it has been. There's been absolute control from these companies as to what gets published to their platforms. Now, the argument here that at least Apple is coming back with, I haven't seen Google's response to this yet, but Apple is coming back and saying that if anyone could develop an app and put it out there, and anyone could download an app from somewhere else that didn't go through their review process, that could open up their device to security concerns, to malware, to viruses, where right now that's not really the case. I mean, if you go to the App Store and download an app, with like 99% certainty that app is perfectly fine. It's not going to screw with your phone. It's not going to open you up to security threats. It's not going to have a virus on there. It's not going to be false advertisement or anything. You know what you're downloading. And then once you download it, it works as expected all the time. And that wouldn't be the case anymore. Now, we've kind of gotten used to this with, think about your personal computer or your laptop. You can go and download a program from anywhere. Yeah. Now, we all know not to do that, to go to a random website and download a random program that we're unfamiliar with. Obviously, we all kind of know the threat level associated with that. We know that that program could have a virus. It could just be a virus. It doesn't have to even be what it says it is. It says download this free app, and then it's just a terrible virus. And that's kind of what we're looking at here as soon as we open this up. Of course, it means that developers like myself could put stuff out more quickly and easily. It means that we're not necessarily regulated by these companies, and that they no longer get to be the gatekeepers, which frees people up to build what they want, use what they want, and ultimately use their own device as they want. But we lose out on that singular review process and that complete control, and that sort of quality assurance step that both Apple and Google have really fine-tuned up until this point. So I think there's some pros and some cons on here. I think the people who are advocating for something like this really want to limit the control of these big tech companies. And one of the ways that they could do that, for example, would be to take away their ability to be they're sort of the monopoly as far as the marketplace for an app. And that's kind of the argument, the legal argument that's being made here. It's basically a monopolistic antitrust suit, saying that because this is the only place that you can get apps and the only way that you can publish apps to the only place that people use apps, then that is a monopoly. And so we have to break that up. We have to open that up to the market and allow people to publish apps on there. The pushback is what I said before of without that review and quality assurance step, you don't know what you're going to be downloading, and that's going to open up the end users to all sorts of threats that they may not be prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which way this is going to go. It kind of is reminiscent of the early personal computer development. I don't know if anyone out there remembers how this went, but originally the personal computer was developed by a single company, and everything on it was, it would come default on that computer. So there was actually a lawsuit in I think the early 90s. I'm not entirely, I have to look up exactly when this was, but Microsoft was sued as a monopoly for automatically installing Internet Explorer on all of their machines. Mm-hmm. So when you bought a computer from Microsoft, you would open it up and it would already have Internet Explorer on it as the default browser. The argument there was that then you're basically taking over the browser market. No one else is ever going to install any other browsers. If you put this on here and it's the one that's already on your computer, then everyone is going to use this. They can't use anything else. And so you've just monopolized the browser market, and you now control how people access the internet, which is obviously incredibly important. Now, we all know that that's not how things worked out. Most people that are watching this show are probably watching on Chrome, or if they're on an Apple device, watching it on Safari. I'd be really surprised if anyone's using Internet Explorer anymore, or even the updated version in Edge. But it is kind of starting to sound like that. The early personal computers, when they came out, they had preloaded software, and it took time for the marketplace to sort of build itself out and develop around it to the completely, pretty much open platform that we now have, where you can just go to anywhere online and download their program. There's not a singular marketplace, an app marketplace or anything. There is a Microsoft app marketplace if you want to go through that, or a Google app marketplace if you want to go through that. But that doesn't mean you can't go elsewhere. And ultimately, I do like the idea that, this is my device. I own my phone, my smartphone. I should be able to do with it whatever I want. And right now, download applications from other places. You can jailbreak an iPhone. You can sideload applications from other places. But all of those things will at least void your warranty or anything like that, and could cause some serious problems because the device and the operating system is specifically built to disallow that.
Right.
I don't know if that's monopolistic. I don't know if this is really more like that Internet Explorer lawsuit, where it's just marketplace is eventually going to win over here and it's going to develop outside of this, or if we do need the government to step in and legislate this and break this up and keep them from doing this. But it's definitely a very interesting development here. And as an app developer, I'm very curious to see where this lands. If I didn't have to go through Apple and Google to publish all of my apps, that would be a life-changing experience for me.
I knew you were going to love this story, Miles. Yeah. Just the possible hope that you wouldn't have to deal with some of the things that they make you go through and the hoops you have to jump through to publish on those platforms. Yeah, really fascinating story. Miles, if you haven't already, maybe put that link down in the comments for folks. And thanks for doing a deep dive on that and going through it. We really appreciate it from your perspective as an app developer. I'll just hit a couple quick thoughts that I had on it. Obviously we have to think about this in terms of, like you said, the gatekeeper aspect of it. Maybe just not even from the development side of what you have to do as far as, a programming or coding to meet their standards, but also their content, standards, so to speak, which no one really understands what they are, other than when you violate them, you will find out very quickly. And, of course, when was that? Was that back in the beginning of the year? We had the whole thing with Parler. I can't even, man, the time's just flying by. Yeah, but So people probably remember the whole thing that happened with Parler. And no, we don't discuss politics on this show, but we do discuss technology. So, no matter how you felt about that, at the time we thought, oh, this is a little bit worrisome, for the open and free internet, so to speak, to continue to exist if it is super centralized and only two entities can, or three, I guess, in this case, with Amazon being the third, can just completely remove an entire platform, an entire company from the existence of social media. That was kind of an eye-opening event for us that are developing things for people. And so this would be a way, as Miles just explained, that you wouldn't have to go through those gatekeepers. And so just from, maybe a freedom of expression or idea or an open and free internet perspective, that could possibly be a good thing. Like I said, we don't necessarily endorse people one way or the other for what kind of content they put out there, but we do believe in a decentralized, open and free internet as much as possible is probably a good thing. And then the other aspect that I found interesting was the financial aspect of it that they did dig into a little bit here in this article. I'll pull out a couple quotes here. Both companies, referring to Google and Apple, take a 15 to 30% cut of all purchases. So not just the download purchases, but also the in-app store purchases made in apps. But their own apps are exempt from the fee. So,
that's what happens when you own the store.
Right,
you own the marketplace. You can do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Which is part of the argument of, maybe you shouldn't own the only marketplace in town. Maybe there should be something else going on here.
So, for example, that could mean, I'm quoting from the article here, that could mean users paying for items like the popular Fortnite app or the premium service on dating apps like Tinder. But many, including Spotify, Fortnite, creator Epic Games, and Match Group have denounced that fee, which Tesla CEO, our old friend Elon Musk, boy, am I glad I sold Dogecoin when he went on Saturday Night Live. Elon Musk has called it a global tax on the internet for sucking up too much revenue. At an April Senate antitrust hearing, Match Group said its biggest expense in 2020 was a 30% app store fee. The company raked in $2.4 billion in revenue last year and paid $500 million, or $500 million, on app store commissions. So they made $2.5 billion. They spent $500 million just on the commissions back to Apple and Google. So again, if we think about competition and what's good for the little guy and gal out there, a 15 to 30% fee on everything that you make is a pretty high tax, and if you're making 2.5 bill,
it's a big tax when there's nowhere else to go, which is the key. That's the cornerstone in this entire argument, is that there's no way around it. There's no other way to get your content out there, to publish an app to the world. You have to go through these gatekeepers, and they can charge whatever they want.
Exactly. And to look at it from an economies of scale, position, if I'm a big player like Fortnite, right, and I make 2.5 bill, okay, sure, skim $500 million off the top, I'd probably be okay, But if I'm a small upstart company, and I'm only making maybe $1 million in revenue, and I got expenses that are $750,000. And then I have another 15 to 30% tax on top, I'm probably going out of business or not even starting to launch the app to begin with, right? And so that crushes innovation, that crushes, just small and medium-sized companies being able to compete with bigger companies. And so that leads to, just less market opportunities for the consumers out there, right? And so that would be my pushback against Google and I guess it was Apple that made the statement, was it? About how, their security pushback. Oh, this would lead to security concerns.
Which is, before we completely lean into one side of this, that is a legitimate concern.
Sure.
And especially considering that mobile apps are way more technically complicated than, say, publishing a website. Anyone can publish a website. Building an app that actually works on these platforms and that isn't violative of, I mean, just think about it. In order to get on the Apple App Store, you have to pass certain tests that say you're not using a user's location. That say that you're not accessing the camera or microphone or other things like that. So there's lots of additional security protocols that are part of the review and quality assurance thing. It's not just, hey, we don't like what this app said, so we're not going to let them on here. There are some legitimate security concerns that would need to be addressed in any sort of open marketplace.
And here's I guess a question for you, Miles, because I'm just ignorant on this. But but you know, is there a solution where you can have some of those you know, I guess development policies in place, but not charge people a 15-30% fee, and not have two companies, you know, only dictate who's allowed to publish what content on a mobile marketplace? You know, is there a hybrid solution here?
Yeah, and there's been a bunch that have been thrown around over the years. This isn't the first time this has come up. This just happens to be a recent legislative conversation on it. I tend to think that the market has some solutions for this stuff that's going to come up. But the bottom line is that money needs to come in order to pay someone a very capable, very technically capable entity needs to have this review process and the ability to green light stuff to let it out there. We need someone to be letting stuff on or taking stuff down when it breaks those rules or when it is violative. You know, there's been some suggestion that this falls to the device creators, so that, you know, when you download an app, your actual device will have software on it that will notify you, hey, this app is trying to utilize your camera, or something where you have to explicitly give it permissions to do things from within the device itself. So that wouldn't be dependent on the app creators or on the app software. Whereas right now, since everything's cleared through the app through the app platforms, that can be covered in the review process. So there doesn't need to be that secondary check once it gets onto the device. So that could be part of one answer. I think there has to be some money coming in there. Some people have suggested that you have to pay a one-time fee just to publish something. And when you take care of that, that does the review process, that pays for the review process. So whichever entity you're publishing through, you'd have to pay them for the review process in order to make it into any marketplace. Some people have suggested having companies kind of like publishing houses that serve as the review process, and then the publishing house would then forward it on to an app marketplace. So there could be several app marketplaces, but they can only accept apps that have a stamp of approval from one of these other publishing house companies. So there's a lot of different ways that we could put this thing together that would be leveraging different companies and different entities throughout the process, and not just putting it on one entity. That's the big problem here, is that all of that is within Apple or it's within Google, and you get no other choices. If there's something else going on there, I can choose which publishing house I go to. And if one, you know, doesn't really mesh with me, I can go and work with another one. And that allows the market to, at least to a certain extent, regulate itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know,
but there's no simple answers here, unfortunately. I have no idea what this is going to end up looking like. I hope that it doesn't end up looking like just one big regulation from the top down and the government is taking over management of some aspect of like Apple and Google. That's like worst case scenario here. I think that makes the problem worse here. Somehow we need to break this up and have it decentralized if we're going to do this at all. So that multiple companies, multiple entities, multiple individuals have their own input, and there is some form of competition within the app publishing marketplace.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, there's probably going to be some consumer learning involved in that process. But yeah, if you did have multiple app stores and each one was, you know, marketing that, hey, we're more secure than the other because of this, and that, well, then it's up to the consumer to decide. And yeah, some people may, you know, download the worst one will be the cheapest. I'll tell you that right now. And some people will probably download that and they'll get their phone messed up, and then they'll learn. And that's, like you said before, that's why people don't just go on shady websites anymore and download random stuff, because
part
everybody
of it will
did
just
that
be
once
that update
and it screwed
of,
up their computer.
yeah, part of that will just be that update of user knowledge of how the stuff works. Right now, we kind of just assume that an app is an app and it's all going to work and none of it's going to hack me and none of it's going to be a virus. We're going to have to modify our thinking about how we look at that. So part of that's going to be from the user perspective. Some of that is going to be just decentralizing this and having multiple decision makers and having multiple gatekeepers and having that sort of natural competition within the marketplace, so that hopefully the ones who do it right survive and the ones that do it wrong close and don't do well. But that does open up the possibility and pretty much the necessity for someone doing it wrong, for there being a bad company out there, someone doing something wrong and a bad app getting out on some marketplace, and some user is going to get screwed by that. There's really no way around that in my mind anyway. I don't see a way around that without massive overreach from the top down.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
well,
which one's a bigger risk? I don't know. We'll find out.
All right. Good stuff, Miles. Thanks for giving us some insights into this important topic here.
Okay, well, we are officially over time. I think that was an interesting conversation there at the end.
I got to run. But
we got work to do here. But if you found that interesting, please give us a like, share, comment. That helps us to reach more people, answer some more questions. If you have a question on anything that we talked about today, throw it in the comments. I'll see it later, or email us at askwildman@wildmanweb.com. I have that address scrolling below here, and we will plan on seeing you next Wednesday at 11 o'clock.
Sounds like a plan to me, Miles.
Thanks for watching, everyone.